G'day all, Noob-72 here. Hope you're having an awesome day. Welcome to Ep.3 of yet another History of the World. In today's episode, we're going to look at the Eon of history. Now, when we think of Hadeon, we think of the Greek god Hades, which represents hell, but we're going to look at that in a moment. So sit back, relax, and here we go. The concept of the Hadean era refers to the earliest and most enigmatic period in Earth's geological history. The eon spans from the formation of the Earth around 4.6 billion years ago to about 4 billion years ago, and is named after the Greek god Hades, representing the hellish conditions that prevailed during this time. While our understanding of this eon is limited due to the scarcity of direct geological evidence, scientists have pieced together some information about the Hadean era or eon through geological and astrophysical research. Some of the stuff we're going to talk about today might be a little bit of a repetition of yesterday's episode or last episode, but that's okay. The formation of Earth began with the solar nebula, a vast cloud of dust, gas and dust left over from the birth of the Sun. This nebula contained a mix of elements including hydrogen, helium, and heavier elements like carbon, oxygen, silicon, and iron. Within the solar nebula, solid particles known as dust grains began to collide and stick together due to mutual gravitational attraction. These small particles gradually formed to larger lumps called planetesimals. As planetesimals continued to collide and merge, they grew into larger bodies known as protoplanets. These protoplanets continued to accumulate material and grow in size. As protoplanets grew larger, the gravitational forces at their core increased, leading to compression and heating. This process caused the protoplanets to become molten, and they start to differentiate into layers and denser materials sticking to the center. Over millions of years, a bit like a cocktail, sometimes you can get those layered cocktails. I think it's a fruit tingle. Over millions of years, one of those protoplanets, which we now call Earth, became the dominant object in its orbital region. It continued to accumulate material, sorry about that, material until it reached a size sufficient to be considered a planet. The Earth's interior remained hot and molten due to the energy generated by gravitational compression and the heat from the radioactive decay of isotopes. Extreme heat. The primary heat source during the Hadean era was gravitational compression. As Earth's mass increased, so did the gravitational forces at its core. This compression generated immense pressure and temperature. Radioactive isotopes present within the Earth's mantle, such as uranium -238, thorium -232, and potassium -40, released heat through their natural decay processes. These isotopes decay at a slow but steady rate, contributing to the internal heat budget of the planet. The early Earth experienced frequent and massive impacts from planetesimals and other celestial bodies. When these bodies collided with Earth, they released enormous amounts of energy in the form of heat. These impacts were not only responsible for shaping the Earth's surface, but also for contributing to the overall heat budget of the planet. The intense heat maintained the Earth's surface in a molten or semi-molten state, forming what is referred to as a magma ocean. This molten state allowed for differentiation, with heavier materials sinking towards the core, while lighter materials rose to form the mantle. The extreme heat conditions of the Hadean era persisted for a few 100 million years, gradually subsiding as the Earth cooled and solidified. As the planet cooled, the outer layers began to solidify, leading to the formation of the first stable crust. Lack of a stable crust. The extreme heat during the Hadean Eon resulted in the Earth's surface being predominantly molten or semi-molten. This molten surface was a consequence of the intense heat generated by gravitational compression, radioactive decay, and the frequent impact events from celestial bodies. The molten surface material was in a state of constant motion due to convection currents. These currents were generated by the temperature differences between the hot interior and the slightly cooler outer layers. As molten rock moved upwards, it would cool and then sink back into the hotter depths, creating a cycle of churning. Because there was no stable solid crust, the Earth's surface lacked the landforms and geological features we associate with the planet, our present-day planet, such as continents, oceans, and mountains. Instead, it was a tumultuous and ever-changing environment of molten rock. I when I think about this, I think of our uh, Mount Kilauea in Hawaii that's constantly erupting and churning, and yeah, that's what the vision I get when I think of this. The formation of continents characterized by thick and stable continental crusts would not occur until much later in Earth's history during the Archean Eon. The frequent impacts from planetesimals and other celestial bodies also contributed to the lack of a stable crust. These impacts would have disrupted and resurfaced the molten landscape, preventing the formation of any long-lasting features. I don't know why I'm yawning, guys. I'm sorry, this isn't that boring. It's actually quite fascinating. Ah, dear. Earth's early atmosphere. The atmosphere of the early Earth during the Hadean Eon was significantly different from the present day atmosphere. It was primarily composed of gases such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, and smaller amounts of other gases. One notable feature of the early atmosphere was the absence of oxygen or free oxygen, because there is some oxygen in water vapor. Molecular oxygen is essential for most forms of life, but it was virtually absent in the Hadean atmosphere. The gases in the early atmosphere likely had several sources. Water vapor, for example, could have been released from the interior of the Earth through volcanic outgassing. Other gases may have been delivered by comets, meteorites, and icy planetesimals that impacted the Earth. Over time, some of the gases in the early atmosphere, especially lighter elements like hydrogen, helium, and even water vapor, could have been lost to space due to Earth's relatively low gravity. Additionally, as the Earth cooled and solidified, some of the gases may have been absorbed by the molten surface or incorporated into minerals. The composition of the Earth's atmosphere would undergo significant changes over billions of years. For example, the emergence of photosynthetic organisms during the Archean Eon would lead to the gradual accumulation of oxygen in the atmosphere, marking a crucial step in the planet's transition to a more stable environment. The formation of the moon. We touched on this in the last episode as well, but it is what it is. The leading hypothesis for the formation of the moon during the Hadean Eon is known as the giant impact hypothesis. According to this theory, a Mars-sized object, often referred to as Theia, collided with the early Earth with a glancing blow around 4.5 billion years ago. A glancing blow, that sounds like something that happens when you're playing marbles. Some of you who are younger might have to research what marbles are. Um, the impact was so massive that it led to the ejection of a significant amount of material from both Theia and the Earth into space. This ejected material formed a disk of debris around the Earth known as the lunar accretion disk. Over time, the material in this disk began to coalesce and form small moonlets, which eventually merged in the same um, form of accretion to become the moon. The giant impact had several profound consequences for the Earth and the formation of the moon. It released an immense amount of energy, causing widespread melting and vaporization of the Earth's surface and leading to the formation of a global magma ocean. The ejected material that eventually formed the moon likely had a significant influence on the moon's composition and structure. The impact also played a role in shaping Earth's axial tilt and rotation rate. Evidence for the giant impact hypothesis comes from a variety of sources, including the similarity in isotopic compositions of lunar rocks and certain types of Earth rocks, computer simulations of planetary formation, and the moon's overall properties. The origin of water. The origin of water on Earth during the Hadean era is a topic of ongoing scientific debate. There are several hypotheses regarding the source of Earth's water. Some scientists propose that the water was delivered to Earth by comets and icy planetesimals. These objects, originating in the outer solar system, could have impacted Earth and contributed to its water content. Another hypothesis suggests that water was already present in the Earth's interior during its formation and it was released through volcanic outgassing. Water vapor and other volatile components could have been emitted from the mantle through volcanic activity. It reminds me there um, of the original Total Recall when the volcanoes uh, were set to erupt or and release the gas that would, then start raining down into water. Um, Evidence: isotropic studies of the hydrogen. Deuterium hydrogen ratios in Earth's oceans and in comets provide some clues. The isotopic composition of Earth's water is closer to that of comets than to other solar system bodies, supporting the idea of cometary delivery. Studies of certain types of meteorites known as carbonaceous chondrites, which contain water-rich minerals, suggest that the water-bearing compounds could have been present in the early solar system and incorporated into Earth as it is formed. It is important to note that it's likely that Earth's water has multiple sources, including both cometary delivery and internal outgassing. The exact contribution of each source are still a subject of ongoing research. Regardless of its origin, the presence of water on early Earth was crucial for the development of life and the formation of Earth's oceans, which played a significant role in shaping the planet's and climate over environment and climate over geological activity. Despite the extreme heat and absence of a stable solid crust, geological activity did occur during the Hadean era. One significant event was the formation of the early continental crust. The formation of continental crust began as less dense materials such as felsic or silica rich rocks tended to accumulate and float on the surface of the molten earth. These accumulations of less dense material would have been the first rudimentary continents or proto-continents, although they would have been very different from modern continents. The exact processes and mechanisms by which these proto-continents formed are still a subject of research and debate among geologists. The Hadean Eon likely featured intense volcanic activity. Volcanic eruptions would have been a common occurrence, releasing gases such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. These volcanic emissions would have contributed to the evolving composition of the atmosphere. One of the most important pieces of evidence from the Hadean Eon comes from the discovery of ancient zircon minerals. These tiny crystals, found in some of the oldest known rocks on Earth, provide a glimpse into the geological history of this eon. Zircon is a highly resilient um, and resistant to chemical alteration, making it an excellent candidate for preserving ancient geological information. Some zircon crystals date back to around 4.4 billion years ago, which suggests that the Hadean Eon may have included periods when the Earth's surface was cool enough for rocks to solidify and crystallize. The early life hypothesis in the Hadean Eon. One of the leading hypotheses for the emergence of life during the Hadean Eon involves hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor. Hydrothermal vents are fissures in the Earth's crust through which heated, mineral rich water is ejected from the planet's interior into the cold, deep sea environment. At these vents, there are temperature and chemical gradients, creating conditions that could potentially support the formation of organic molecules and the emergence of early life. The high temperature water emerging from hydrothermal vents is rich in minerals and metals, providing the necessary chemical ingredients for life. This hypothesis suggests that life may have originated at the interface between the hot, mineral laden water from the vent and the cold, nutrient rich seawater where complex chemical reactions could have occurred. While not specific to the Hadean Eon, the famous Miller-Urey experiment conducted in the 1950s demonstrated that simple organic molecules, including amino acids, could be formed under conditions resembling those thought to exist on the early Earth. This experiment supported the idea that the basic building blocks of life could arise spontaneously. Another hypothesis suggests that ribonucleic acid, or RNA, may have formed a crucial role in the origin of life during the Hadean eon. Um, RNA is a molecule that can store both genetic information, like DNA, and catalyze chemical reactions like proteins. It is considered a possible precursor to the more complex DNA and proteins found in modern life. Sorry, tripping over my tongue today, guys. Um, the RNA world hypothesis posits that self-replicating RNA molecules could have formed in the primordial soup of the early Earth, eventually leading to the first primitive life forms. While not exclusive to the Hadean Eon, the panspermia hypothesis suggests that life could have originated elsewhere in the universe and then been transported to Earth via comets, meteorites, or interstellar dust particles. This theory doesn't address the origin of life, but rather how life may have been distributed. It's important to note that there is currently no direct evidence of life during the Hadean Eon. The conditions at that time were extremely harsh, with extreme heat, no stable crust, and a volatile, rich atmosphere, making the emergence of life a challenging proposition. Understanding the origin of life on Earth remains a complex and active area of research. Scientists continue to investigate the conditions and procedures that could have allowed for the emergence of life in such extreme environments, and they search for potential evidence in ancient rocks and minerals. The end of the Hadean Eon. The end of the Hadean Eon marked a crucial transition in Earth's geological history. Around 4 billion years ago, the Earth's surface began to cool and solidify, signifying the beginning of the Archean Eon. During the Archean Eon, which we'll look at in the next episode, conditions on Earth continue to evolve, including the development of more stable continental crust, the emergence of oceans, and the possibility of early life. The cooling of Earth's surface was a gradual process that allowed for the formation of a more stable crust. As the surface solidified, the constant churning of molten rock gave way to the development of a more structured geological landscape. While the cooling of the Earth's surface, water vapor in the atmosphere began to condense and fall as rain. Over time, this process led to the formation of the Earth's first oceans. That's a whole lot of rain, guys, providing a stable environment for various chemical processes and potentially the emergence of life. The transition from the Hadean to the Archean Eon marked the shift from the hellish molten conditions of the Hadean to a more hospitable environment. While still harsh by today's standards, the early Archean Eon offered conditions that were more conducive to the development and stable sustainability of life. It's important to note that the Hadean Eon is a challenging period to study because much of the early geological record has been erased due to the intense geological activity, impacts, and the scarcity of preserved rocks from that time. However, ongoing scientific research, along with advances in astrobiology and planetary science, continues to shed light on this mysterious period in Earth's history and our planet's journey from a molten, inhospitable world to one capable of sustaining life. That's it, guys. That's a Hadean Eon. I hope you enjoyed that exploration of the period. Um, I found it fascinating. Um, Hopefully, you did as well. Now, I got my first comment on on my first episode from a fellow creator and good friend, Flissy Fliss. Um, check, do check out her podcast, Fliss's Corner. It's totally different from this, but it's really a great podcast. So if you have a time to have check that out, please do so. She asked me whether I was going to take suggestions for future episodes, and that's a big yes. But they're going to be but I'm taking a chronological approach. This isn't going to be like half-assed history, which looks at different events and in different weeks. So it's got to be a chronological approach to the topic. So if your topic that you choose um, happens later on down the track, you just have to wait for that choice. That's all. So because I do want to take that chronological approach, it works better in my mind. That's and I'm a bit OCD like that. I want to talk to things in a talk about things in a very close to chronological order. So, but by no means don't definitely send some suggestions through that you might want me to talk about. Um, uh, there are some areas that I don't really enjoy as much as others. So you'll probably find that the Roman period is going to be very extensive, whereas maybe the Egyptian might be not as detailed. So maybe if you're really interested in Egypt and you want me to look at specific things, I'll look at that definitely. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or you're listening to it on Spotify. whichever you did, hit the make a comment, drop a comment below on YouTube, give it a like. And of course, subscribe on YouTube or follow on Spotify. Each will be fantastic. I'll be very, very grateful. I'm Noob 72. Have a great morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. See you later and take care, and bye for now.